Would you like to grow your business 20, 30, 50%? Would you like to reduce your marketing expenses and get more money to the bottom line because your customers are doing your marketing for you? Would you like to have employees that care about your business and your customers as much, maybe even more than you do? Yes, you would. Well, if so, you're in the right place because that's actually what's going on over at Ruby. And in the next 17 minutes, I'll be sharing with you how we developed our own proprietary 6-step proven process that is trainable, measurable, and repeatable, and you can use it in your organization to get similar results. And by results, as you heard, next week we go on stage to accept our Lighthouse Award from the Portland Business Journal for 5 consecutive years on the fastest growing companies list. And by results, I'm talking as a percentage of sales, we've been able to reduce our marketing expenses by 78% over the last 5 years while growing our business 5-fold. And by results, I'm talking in an industry where turnover is well over 100%. We're looking at turnover less than 1/5 of that. And unlike Brian Howe's employees that on their free time go have beers and talk about how much money he's printing, we have employees that actually on the weekend buy presents for our customers. And even on their paid vacation, go visit our customers on their vacation. The epiphany? Wow, it's not a bunch of fluff. Wow is a bottom line concept. So I'd like to take you on the journey of how we actually came up with this. A lot of you guys know me here. Know we're about practicing WOWism, knowing we're about fostering happiness in the workplace. Who here knows what my major was in college? Yes, in the back there, sir. Accounting, that's right. I'm a numbers geek. So when we started Ruby Receptionists, it actually wasn't Ruby. It was WorkSource Inc., and we were about making businesses more efficient. And things went along for the first year, and they were fine. I don't know about the rest of you EOers, but as far as I'm concerned, fine is a 4-letter word. But during that first year, we actually did hear from our customers, and they actually liked us, and that was pretty cool. And they told us, but they weren't telling us how efficient we were. What they were saying is, oh my gosh, your receptionists, they're so nice. And I can't believe it. I just got a new client because the caller told us that the receptionist was so nice to them on their phone that they were going with our firm. And we got to hear from our clients about how we gave them such peace of mind because they felt like we were truly part of their team, and they knew they could trust us with their callers to help them and their business and their customers in any way we possibly could. So after hearing that enough, what it was, just what Trevor was talking about, we really figured out our why. We weren't about efficiencies. We were about making a difference in people's day, spreading a little happiness, and making real, personal, meaningful connections. So out the door went WorkSource Inc., and we became Ruby Receptionists, and we no longer hired based on years and years of experience in the receptionist field, and we hired based on finding people that had that shared why, that stood for the same things we did, that wanted to make a difference in people's day. So once we figured that out, we're off to the races. But one of the things you learn, if you hire people based on attitude and values, which I'm sure many of you do here today, and many of you have heard that over and over again, and pass up the experience, you cannot simultaneously expect that those people that you just brought in for their attitude will come with the experience they need. So what we needed to do is create training and systems to ensure that no matter who somebody was interacting with at Ruby, and no matter what interaction that was, whatever touch point that was, they would get the true Ruby experience, the brand, the feel, the tone, the language, friendly and professional, no matter how anybody came across our business. So we created training on everything. We created training on how to make an angry person happy. We created training on how to make a hard of hearing person happy. And we created training on how to make somebody happy even when we couldn't give them what they wanted. And we nailed down our systems. We wanted a system to ensure that every single touch point throughout the Ruby experience was our brand. Now, sometimes even the most obvious touch points you don't see for a while. And I have a little story. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I will share it. We were, I think, all the way into year 5 of our business. We had 40 employees or so at the time. I'll tell you something, we were amazing receptionists on the phone. If you were to call us, you would feel like you were getting a hug over the phone. But if you were to walk in our front door, you would feel like you were a ghost. Literally, we never told people how to act when a visitor came. People would just walk right by them as they went out the door on their break. But out of that came our proprietary greet, seat, and treat method. We've created other systems like our email correspondence standards to ensure that every email that goes out the door to a customer, a vendor, or even a fellow employee starts with a friendly salutation and ends with a professional closing. We even did away with the old military alphabet, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and came up with our own proprietary Ruby phonetic spelling so that you might hear, is that A as in absolutely, or B as in brilliant? Sounds nicer, doesn't it? So, along with our training and our systems, we also really were able to figure out our core values, which are foster happiness, practice WOWism, create community, and innovate. So while we had everything nailed down here, our employees were actually operating on a pretty regular basis up in here because that's just who they were. And that was great, except for we're growing very, very rapidly. And we knew as we got bigger that that was threatened. More and more of our employees were brand new in their first 90 days. So faced with that challenge, we did what we always do when we have a problem we don't know how to solve. We ask our employees. So last year, I sat down with every single solitary one of my employees. It took me about 2 months. And I asked them, what is it that you're doing up here that we could repeat? What is it that you're doing? How can we get everybody, even from day 1, operating up here? And what they shared with us was that if we could do 3 things on a consistent basis, we would have what we were looking for. And those 3 things were to incent, to inspire, and to empower. And I'll be showing a few more stories about these 3 things in a minute, but once we had that, it was like the catalytic converter started kicking in. What we did is we figured out what it was we stood for. We figured out our why. We created systems and training for a consistent experience across every interaction, and we had the ability to incent, inspire, and to empower. So I don't know, who knows, did I just date myself with the catalytic converter thing? Who knows what a catalytic converter is? Yes, no? All right, well, my first car in high school was a lime green Dodge Dart Swinger. And when you turn that baby off, it kept going and going and going. And that's really what's going on at Ruby. We have employees that come to work every day not ready to take 250 calls per day. They come to work ready for 250 opportunities to make a difference in somebody's day. And we have customers that sing our praises in public forums that we could never even imagine paying for. So I've got a couple stories to share with you around this. The first one is about Whitney the receptionist. Now Whitney was at work one day and she was transferring a call to our client, Scott Lanehart. He's a commercial painter in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And as she was transferring that call, she noticed in his account that he was a runner. So she said, hey Scott, how's your running going? And he said, well, Whitney, thanks so much for asking. I'm pretty excited. Next month, I'll be running in the New York City Marathon for the first time. Whitney's like, well, that's great, Scott. Best of luck to you. Here's your call. Transfer the call. Bam. 30 seconds was done. So now a week goes by. Now, according to Scott, this is his version of the story, he was at work, and he should have been working, but he wasn't. He was on Amazon, and he was shopping for one of those long-distance running training belts. You know those belts where you can like put your water and your Doritos, or I don't know, whatever you long-distance runners eat when you're long-distance running. Anyway, so he's shopping for that. UPS guy shows up. Guess what the UPS guy has for Scott? The exact same training belt. And guess who it was? Whitney, the Ruby Receptionist, that's right. Okay, so now how did that all transpire? Well, Whitney had been incented to do this because a week prior, we were running a game with our receptionists to challenge them to learn something interesting and new about our clients and note that in their accounts. So it was actually a different receptionist that had found out that he was a runner. And then we turned around and incented them to say, see if you can use this information as you're interacting. So she had been inspired because she had heard story after story after story of other things that we have done with our clients to connect with them and wow them. We have stories in our front office on a digital photo frame. They rotate with graphics and everything. We still tell stories through email every day. There's new stories generating throughout the entire company, sharing these types of events. We even give out cash prizes at our company-wide staff meetings and tell the best stories of all stories. So she had been inspired. And she had been empowered to do this because at Ruby, we actually have, among other things, a prepaid Amazon account that any employee can buy anything at any time for any customer for any reason, no questions asked. All she has to do is post the story to our WOW page on our intranet and make sure that that same client hadn't received something in the last 6 months, because we like to share the love at Ruby. Okay, so you may think, okay, that's crazy. I could never let my employees just free will buy whatever they want for our customers. Well, I'll just share with you, a typical month, our marketing budget is about $40,000. Do you know how much of that is from the WOW campaign? About $900 of that is our WOW gifts. All right, now you may think, I have $11 hour employees. My employees would never do something like that. You know how much Whitney was making when she sent him that belt? $11.25 per hour. And you know how long she'd been on the job? 1 week. So she was incented, inspired, and empowered to do that, and that's what we got. All right, now I have another story. This one is about Kendra. Now Kendra is at the other end of the spectrum. She has been at Ruby for years and years and years. She is just the Ruby of all Rubies. She is in our client services department. Now the client services department is their own beast of customer service, and one thing they're really adamant about is the follow-up call. So, the customer calls up and we are less than perfect. We take that phone call, we help them get off the phone. The first thing we do is we mark our calendars for 2 days, 2 weeks, whatever the appropriate amount of time is for that follow-up call. And when that Outlook reminder comes out, we give them a call and we say, hey, Mr. Stites, I know things weren't so great for you last week. We made a few changes to your account. Have you noticed any difference? Are we doing any better? Now that alone is, who's doing that? Do that and already you'll be, creating WOWism. But now what Kendra does, she's like in a whole different league. You know those customers that like to keep you honest? The ones that like to call over and over and over again and tell you how you can just be a little bit better every single day? The ones that never, ever quite give you any slack? She loves those people. In fact, if she doesn't hear from them for a while, she will call them and say, hey, haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? How are you doing? Are we doing okay? Because that's just who Kendra is. So, of course, when she finished setting up new client Scott Miles' account, of course he was thrilled, I'm sorry, it's Tim Miles, what am I thinking? Tim Miles' account, he was thrilled, and as she's finishing up, he's like, oh, that's so great. And she's like, thank you, Tim, is there anything else I can get you? And he's like, joked, how about a puppy? Well, you can guess what comes next. Of course, Kendra sends him the puppy. Cute, right? Little fluffy puppy. All right, $9 puppy. What does this get you? Well, this photo, does anyone know where I got this photo? I'm asking a lot of questions today. Guess where I got this photo? I got it from Tim Miles' website. I got it off of a blog post that talks about Ruby, the new woman in his life. And in that blog post, he just come to find out, he had released an ebook called Share-Worthy Service. And so in that blog post, he begs the question, guess what story I'll be leading off with in Share-Worthy Service Volume 2? And Tim Miles also come to find out, travels around the country speaking to hundreds of small business owners at a time, doing all-day seminars about marketing. And now, about 10 to 20 minutes of every one of those presentations, he's actually talking about Ruby. And one of the clients that came through him just last week tweeted how wonderful Ruby is and how he recommends them to any small business, to his 292,000 followers. So if there's any question whether a $9 puppy will give you an ROI, I challenge you to think differently. That's it. I'm Jill Nelson. We're practicing WOWism at Ruby Receptionists. I have a flyer. If anyone's interested in learning more about putting some of these things in your organization, I've got a flyer in the back. There's a 5-minute receptionist makeover and 10 things you can do to connect with your customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.